Hello and welcome once again to another Hornby Magazine video. Today we're next to a door you might recognise.
So we're back outside Pete Waterman's workshop and well, we're here to see another fantastic layout of his. So you may remember last year in 2021, Pete and his friends, they built a monster model of the West Coast Main Line. It was 64 feet long and they took it to Chester Cathedral in the summer. And well, my understanding is we've got a new layout to see in here, which is going to Chester again this summer.
Right, let's get in.
Absolutely. After you.
Making Tracks 1 was so successful, broke all records at the cathedral, so which is fantastic. We achieved what we wanted to do. Secondly, I think we got the bug. I said to the Dean, could we build another one? And he said, sure. It's a completely different layout. Again, we're doing something nobody's ever done before. I would never say this to the rest of the boys because I knew that, you know, I'd get shouted at. This has to be done by the last week in February.
So Mike, we've come into the barn and we are underneath the famous Leamington Spa layout, which is above us now for another double gauge build. And it's starting to look impressive already, even if it's just in bits.
That's right, well, we're a bit earlier coming to see this for the first time this time, so we're seeing it in an earlier stage of its construction. So they've got most of the track down for most of the boards. There's still a couple of boards that go beyond this board we're stood in front of here, and then that joins to all the rest of it to make up the full length. So I'm told it's a little bit longer because it's got full scenery going all the way to the end as well. And it's got grade separation on it as well.
Which I'm looking forward to, especially on a modular layout.
Definitely, yeah. So in terms of what grade separation means, it's where the railways change levels to allow them to cross over each other. So you've got the two main lines, they're on the level all the way through. And you've got the two slow lines at the back, which you've got one which is rising up, and the other one rises up with it to a certain extent, then drops back down again. And then the one that's risen up, it climbs up and goes over the top of the fast lines. So that's going to be something really spectacular to see, with trains bursting out underneath bridges, going over the top of bridges, disappearing behind bridges. That's going to be really great to see.
Lots more vistas this time around,
yes,
I think.
Definitely, yeah.
And of course, we're still modelling real locations. So this is the junction at Hill Morton.
That's right, yeah.
What else will we see on this 64-foot layout?
So a lot of it is based on that section from Hill Morton here, heading south. So it's a 4-track stretch of the West Coast Main Line again. So it is all modelled on real locations again, which is, again, really nice to see these things being brought together in that way. There's a lot of very distinctive architecture and styles of the bridges around this area as well. It's like one of the bridges you might be able to see in the background is where the old Great Central Railway used to go across as well. That is obviously not going to be an operational part of the railway, but it'll be a very impressive bridge structure there. Apparently it could be 1 metre long, that bridge.
So there's a scenic piece of furniture on the layout. It's absolutely fantastic.
It is, yeah. And all these buildings and structures are being made specially for this layout as well. They're all being laser cut for the layout. So it's not like they've just gone and found what might fit. It is actually proper brand new structures to fit this scene.
And so the way they've been put together, you'd think they were a kit you can buy off the shelf. It's absolutely incredible how they've built them, designed them, then built them, I suppose.
Yeah. Then cut them, yeah.
Then
build them, yeah.
All in-house, it's amazing.
It is. It's a brilliant team, I think, they've got surrounding the layout, and they've got lots of different people with different skill sets. Like Dave's fantastic with the woodwork, they've got Phil, who does a lot of the laser cutting, they've got Dave from Megapoint is helping with the electronic side of it as well, and they've got some really fascinating things coming together with the electronic side of this as well. And I'm actually looking forward to seeing all these components that are currently in different areas around the room we're in now. I'm looking forward to one day seeing those all in one place together and be able to see the whole thing come to life.
Because, of course, the biggest downside to a 64-foot layout is you can't put it up until it's in Chester Cathedral.
That's right, yeah. Not many people have got a 64-foot space to put a layout up, you know? And there isn't that much space here. So it's I think they can get about half of it set up at one time in full length, as in half of it joined together at one time. But then you still got other parts, like, for example, we've got, two big 8-foot boards of the frontage here, then the rest of them are over there. So you can't get a train from there to there easily at the moment.
No, and I'm glad you mentioned the electronics previously, actually, because they're planning on some nice surprises this time round.
They are, definitely, yeah.
So we'll take a look at that in a minute.
Yeah.
But I think we should take people for a closer look at the Hillmorton Junction.
Definitely.
So we've come further around the layout, and now we are at what will be one end of the new layout. And this is a fantastic, slightly complicated junction to get your head round, modelled on Hillmorton. Can you do your best to try and explain it for me and everyone at home?
Of course, yeah. So you've got 4 tracks approaching the junction. So on the bottom, you've got the up and down fast of the West Coast Main Line. So the down fast snakes round here, comes down straight underneath all this scenery here, and then goes straight round into the storage yard. The up fast going back to London, that actually comes down the other side, so down in this cutting here, and then that pops out of the bridge in the middle there, and then goes and joins the down fast. You've then got the more interesting part, which is the Northampton up and down lines as well. And that's where they've got the grade separation. So the down line for Northampton's on the viaduct, and that's snaking through over the top, and then it splits here at a point, and this pair of tracks here is what accesses the bay platforms at Rugby Station. They then join back together on the model railway, just because it's going back into storage yard around there. And then we've also got the down Northampton line, sorry, the up Northampton line, I should say, get my up and downs the right way around, which is heading back south. And that then has a slight gradient to reach the point where the grade separation starts, which is about 16 foot beyond the end of what we can currently see here.
You see why I asked you to do that?
Yes.
And even on such a big layout, there still has to be a bit of modeller's licence, because in reality the junction should go that way.
That's right, yeah. So the junction should come this way. There's also, we've got the truncated track bed for the Market Harbour branch there as well, which is probably a slightly tighter angle it would be on the real railway. And then you've also got the Great Central Railway bridge coming across here, which, like you say, because this junction goes this way, actually that bridge is a bit more over here too. So.
And I mean, this is fantastic. This is their trial. I'm going to say trial to be nice to them, but they got it wrong.
I'd be very happy to have that on my layout.
The model isn't wrong, but it's just too short.
Yes, that's right. So actually this bridge will be 1 metre long, going across all of this section of the layout here. And then it'll come to a back seam panel just beyond where that bridge is, which will hide that point where these 2 Rugby Bay platform tracks come back together.
And of course, like everything else on this layout, it's all designed in-house, laser cut in-house, put together in-house and built and painted and...
Absolutely.
Everything.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
And I think one of the other fascinating things about this as well is, and one of the things that Pete was talking about has been a really complicated part of this layout build, is getting the gradients right on this. So you've got a really long, I think it's about 22 feet of gradient to bring the railway up to the right height to cross over here on the down Northampton line. And then once it gets to here, it's got a much steeper gradient going back down to the storage yard, and that's because everything's actually only going downhill there. So you've got the gentle gradient coming up for the trains to be able to climb the gradient, and then they've got a shorter gradient to get back into the storage yard where the guys can save space and just bring the trains back down a bit quicker.
Yeah, then, like you say, trains are only going to go down, so why not?
Exactly. Yeah, make it easy for them.
So I think we should go and have a look at the rest of the layout, which would be further down that way.
Yep.
But as it is in here, it's over there.
Yeah, so we're going to head south, but we're going to go left to head south.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's go. So we've moved slightly to our left, their right,
And south.
and south at the same time. And we can see more of what is the main straight here on the Making Tracks 2 layout.
That's right, and I think there's one important thing to say straight away, and that is that this board here, next to me, doesn't connect to that one there, so don't worry.
I think the best thing about this angle is you not only get to see the layout growing in length, as it were, but you can also see some of the team behind the layout. Because for some reason they always disappear when the camera comes on, but we've got them this time. So Mike, what are we looking at here?
So right, this is the continuation of the 4 tracks heading south. So the 2 tracks nearest to me, they're the up and down fasts of the West Coast Main Line.
Yeah.
Then the 2 tracks which will be nearest to you, but on that board, which start on the next board,
Yeah.
they're the up and down Northampton lines, so the slow lines.
And this is the ramp coming down the middle.
That's right, so that's the continuation of the viaduct seam we saw on the other side,
Yeah.
where it starts to drop down to meet that level you can see there.
Yeah.
And then that's pretty much the gradient all the way down the layout until it reaches level with the West Coast Main Line, which is about probably, 8, 16, about 24 feet away from where we are now.
And of course, when it's all together, it will be 64 foot.
Yeah, it's 64 foot long for the full length of the layout, yeah.
Yeah. which is quite a lot of track and ballasting. And
It certainly is when you multiply everything by 4. Because obviously we're not talking about a single track that's 64 foot long. We've got 4 circuits that are all 64 foot long. So that's 64 foot times 4 of track, 64 foot times 4 of cork, of ballast, of everything. So it's a lot of material and maintenance going to go into this.
so obviously, as you can see here, this is how they have to build it in sections, and I suppose it's an enormous jigsaw. It's complicated enough anyway, but then to have it all higgledy-piggledy over the place. So what sections have we got? Because, I mean, there's a baseboard there that's yet to be done.
Yeah, so if I start actually here,
Yeah.
so this is coming out of the storage yard,
Yeah.
which is the same storage yard which was built for the Making Tracks 1 layout,
Yeah.
apart from a change to this end of the layout in order to create this junction here. We then swing around through Hillmorton Junction, which takes us into the first part of the scenic section. So that continues over there. So when we get to the end of that back seam panel over there, that will join to that baseboard there. Then that baseboard there joins that bit to this bit here, which
Yeah.
completes the circuit all the way down there.
Which then goes back onto the...
And then over in the behind the layout there, there's the joining board to take that corner of the layout back around to join to the storage yard, which is currently over there.
completely off shot.
Yeah.
And how they do this, I mean, ultimately, without putting it together before it goes into Chester, must be...
I suppose, Dave's pretty good with his woodwork, and as long as he's got everything square, and they did it before with the first version, they were really careful about how they planned out how it worked. But everything was a square board, so it should all go together quite simply.
I mean, it's looking promising, and of course they've done it once before.
Yeah, and they've tested every board as they go as well.
Yeah.
It's like they're doing a lot of testing today with the storage yard boards to sort out the electronics on that as well. But it's all quite simple being DCC as well. I say simple. Simple is probably not the right word, but from a wiring perspective, it's simpler from a DCC perspective because at least it's one power feed into each board, even if it's split 8 times to 8 different tracks.
Yeah. But obviously, this is early days still, so as you can see, we've still got bare baseboards.
That's right, yeah.
However, going down the layout, we start to see the scenery coming out of the ground.
Yes, that's
So
right.
I think we should go and take a look further down.
Have a look at that.
Right, so we've walked the length of the layout, we've come all the way down to what is the other end. And again, we've got more bridges coming up.
Lots of bridges, actually. Yeah, I think this is going to be one of the really nice parts of the layout scenically as well, because you've got all these different bridges breaking up the scene. So coming towards us, so heading from north to south, I'm the south, over there's the north, you come under an A road bridge. Then at that point the railways are still separated, so actually they're still on slightly different levels, and also you've got the Northampton lines disappearing behind a cutting as well. That's going to be really quite a nice looking part of the layout, I think. Then you come to the A5, which is a skewed road bridge across both tracks as well, and so that's going to look great, I think. And then after that you've got this very short vista here before you come into Kilsby Tunnel, and that's the end of the scenic section of the layout, and all that will be built up, so that's all a nice hill scene above here as well.
Which is a nice, fast, sweeping end to the layout, really.
Yeah, that's right. And it's one of the things I really liked about the first Making Tracks layout was actually the point where the trains actually left the scene. They weren't tending to go around curves. So actually they had enough scenery where the train could disappear straight, and then things like Pendolino and things, you could see them just belting out straight down the North Main line, like you would if you stood at line side.
It's interesting they managed to capture that feeling.
Yes. Yeah.
You say of a Pendolino coming, sweeping round, it's great.
Round, that's right, yeah.
And of course, in the middle of this scenic board, you've got the road bridge and the canal.
That's right, yeah, they're cut down into the baseboard, so you've got those as well. And then you've got another road bridge further up as well, which is going to be done in a slightly different way. And then beyond that, you've also got the power station as well, the power supply, transformer supply for the overhead electric as well. Because that is one of the things that is... There's many things missing currently at this stage of the layout build, but one of the really important parts of this layout build is the overhead catenary, because that's what makes these layouts really stand out for me.
Yeah, so actually it's a rare chance to see them out without any.
That's right, yeah, with no catenary at this point. And there's another part to this as well, actually, because actually the scenery's all getting extended, so you might be wondering why this bridge hangs over the edge of the baseboard. It's actually because there's another 4 inches to go on the front of this layout all the way along. And that's going to allow them to have the scenery falling below the level of the railway, as well as it being above the railway as well. And that's going to make it a nice dipping and rising trough along the front of the railway here as well.
It's quite amazing to see, because obviously they're bound by the room it goes into at the cathedral. So in effect it's got to be a big rectangle. But it's really interesting to see how they overcome the issues of that and trying to get away from that square feeling.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. So I think that's one of the other interesting things about this as well, is like you talk about it being at the cathedral. You have to remember this layout's going to be on show for, I think it's about 9 weeks. running 7 days a week in Chester Cathedral. It's got to work reliably all the time. That's one of the reasons why it's got a slightly simpler track plan than some people might be expecting it to have. And it means that they can have this running with 4 people and keeping 4 main lines running as well. They're even looking at some automation for it potentially as well for some of the storage yard sidings, so they can run with fewer people if they can as well, if they need to as well. So.
Well remembered. I think we should go and take a look.
Yeah, so we're going to have a look at that storage yard.
Yeah, which is again in another part of the bowels of Leamington Spa.
Yeah, it's over there.
So we've come down one of the many avenues underneath Leamington Spa to the storage yard, or one end of the storage yard, for Making Tracks 2. And there's some shiny lights.
There are, yes. There's some clever things going off with the storage yard. So the guys are currently working on installation of a detection system on the railway. It's all done through, it's little control circuit boards underneath the layout. And there's resistors put between the wheels on the rolling stock. And then as they run down the layout, they are detected by those circuit boards underneath the layout, and they feed back to this board to show what areas are occupied and which bits aren't. So every one of these lights on the main board here represents 1 foot of track.
Wow.
On the layout. Then you've also got extra mini panels as well. So these are the little panels here that the actual layout operators will have to use. And each one of the little lighting squares on here represents 4 feet of track. So it's a smaller version basically. And it also displays which way your points are set. So if I switch this switch here, so I've just changed that point, and you can see that this box has switched me to the bottom track as well. Whilst the track up here is also mimicked as well, and it's now showing that I've got the route through on that line as well. It's also showing me that I've got a training section a section of track down there, so an 8 foot of track. And then we've got another piece of rolling stock up in here as well. So if I switch back again, you'll see it change on here. And now it's showing where the train's going.
It's all very clever, but why would you use this on a model railway?
Well, for this model railway in particular, it's a huge, huge model railway. And to some extent, one of the most difficult parts of a big model railway like this is knowing where your train is. Because if you're an operator and you're driving your train, you could be 60 feet away from where your train is. And then you don't really have a clear idea of where it is. Is it still going? Has it stopped? Has it got stuck? So a visual indicator like this gives you a really clear sign that your train's still on the move and where it's got to as well. So it'll help with being able to monitor where trains are in the storage yard, what space to the left as well. So this panel in particular will show a full display of what's occupying what bits of track in the storage yard, wherever there's red of the train basically. There's another part of it as well, and that's for the spectators at the Making Tracks event as well. So one of these panels will be displayed to the public as well, so they can see all the train movements taking place on these boards. So they'll be able to see how things are moving around the layout and get an understanding of which bits are occupied, which bits aren't occupied.
So let you know which train's coming where, and you can
see where a train's coming from, what route it's coming from. Yeah, exactly. And I think it's brilliant. It's you switch the switch, it changes the route, it shows you the route as well.
If you roll that coach down, it works as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So if I reach down here, if I get a coach, you see the red lights change up on the panel here. And if I send the coach back down that way, so much fun. They're never going to get rid of me out of here now.
So you can have so much fun with this, but there's the whole layout to enjoy.
Exactly.
It's really interesting to see how much they're improving on the previous one.
Yeah.
Because you think that's a massive and a very fantastic layout.
Yes.
But they're improving it like everyone does with their model railways.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's also understanding what they found were problems when they were doing the event at Chester, and then taking those things forward to invest in what they do for the second one.
Well, I'm looking forward to it already.
So
we're early days.
Yeah. Yes, we're a few months away from when the Chester Cathedral event opens. That's opening in July this year. So there's a little bit of time left to get all this finished, but they have still got a lot of work to do as well. So this is just our first visit. So we're coming back to see progress as it happens in the next few months in the run-up to the event.
And all being well, we'll be able to see it at Chester.
Yes.
And the Great Electric Train Show.
That's the plan, yeah. So you've heard it here first. It's going to Chester, and it's going back to the Great Electric Train Show as well.